You're going to tell them?
I do know them. I don't know how they're going to respond.
Are you going to tell them?
I don't need to.
You don't need to?
No. They might watch this podcast one day.
Geraldine, did you bring our tree back to life? Thank you for hugging it every day for us.
Seriously, I did go past that tree a lot. I did.
Silence can be touched. The splendor of your love. The splendor of your love. Muka samasta sukino. Sukino malantu loka samasta sukino malantu.
The background.
I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Counter
wonderful.
rhythm.
Yep. Sounds good.
I'll put it on 9 for humanity. I'll just turn it down to 9 for humanity, the state of humanity. Let's talk about that today.
Okay.
Giz, do you want to sit up for a bit?
So, season 2, episode
Ready?
4.
Giz, up, coming up, baby. Giz, he doesn't want to participate today. He hasn't wanted to participate for a while now. He still wants to sit on the couch with us,
Yeah,
but he doesn't want to be visible. He keeps going down under.
He's just very relaxed with us.
Yeah, he's just very relaxed with the audience too, aren't you, baby?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay. So, welcome to Beyond Survival, where we're meeting. It's a meeting space to talk to artists and thinkers, people who don't feel necessarily at home in fast culture, for those who believe art and life can interrupt the systems that sustain it. So if you're here for the long form conversations, the creative resistance and cultural reflections, welcome. I'm Geraldine, your host. This is Kelli, my co-host, and Gizmo, the superhost.
Gizmo, say hello. Hello.
And in the background we have Stephanie Davis.
Wave,
and
Stephanie, wave. Our producer extraordinaire that keeps us in line, even though we can't give her exactly what she wants. We are, look, last season it would take us 2 hours. It only takes us
an hour.
an hour.
So we are very mellow today. We've had some changes, had a cancellation today. I guess will be joining us in a couple of weeks' time. So, Kelli and I have had to change format and change what we're doing. It's going to be conversation between us, and yeah, we're glad
And
that you
hopefully
can
with
join
you
us.
guys as well.
Yeah, join the conversation.
I do love the word pivot, and we had to do a major pivot today because we had spent 2 days preparing for something that's not happening for a couple of weeks, but that's okay. That's what happens. Life is full of pivots.
It is. But in reassessing today, we've had some really great conversations, and we'd like to share some of our thoughts and our conversation with you.
We were talking about cultural counter rhythms the last couple of weeks really, how to endure that article that I wrote a few weeks ago that you did read out about how to endure F47 and what did that look like, and we talked about, or I talked about in the article, we've got to get into the counter rhythm mode, and so we want to talk about that today because then that sparked a conversation between Geraldine and I think I even had chats with Stephanie about it, didn't I, Steph? Anyway, she's in produce mode, so that's okay. But yeah, what does that look like? Because we were watching obviously what was going on in the States as well as across the world and across the planet, all of the things that finally the 3 million kind of, or at least half the Epstein files have come down. And they don't think they're too bad, but we think that there's a lot in there, but there's a lot what is it that they're still hiding? That's pretty bad. What we're reading at the moment, what we're seeing at the moment is pretty bad, but what does that look like? And how do we use counter-rhythm to live into that space and not only survive it, but move beyond survival of this constant chaos that we're seeing around the world at the moment. And we had some good conversations about it, didn't we?
We started talking about counterculture, and that sort of, in the 1960s, we really had a reaction to mainstream. And we had some incredible times. I wasn't there, although I was born at the end of the 60s.
Yeah.
So, but there was definitely a revolution. Certainly, it was a backdrop.
70s, it was a big year during the women's movement,
yeah.
also to do with the Vietnam War. Yeah. That was a big protest. It was like it was around the world.
And it was fashion, it was music, it was people experimenting.
The miniskirts came in, the bikinis came in, post-50s.
Sex, drugs and rock and roll basically is how it sort of acted out.
And then people started experimenting.
Yeah, but I feel like there was a
flower
rupture.
power.
The flower power was a rupture in the mainstream expectations, and we're talking about the more conservative religions and the more, I guess, I want to call it unawake times in a way of people following what the expectations and following in generation after generation and doing similar things or with very similar.
And I think all those emotional
values
journeys
sort of
that you go on with protest or standing up against what is considered the norm that no longer is the norm, every emotion that you go through has its place and time. If you look at the women's movement in the early days, it was required that women stood up and got angry about it because and I think we're seeing a little bit of that happening around the world. There is a place for it because what it does is wake people up to you can't stay silent anymore. We have to do this as a collective. But there's also a place for counter-rhythm that comes after that where you understand that you're in the eye of the storm when you take this moment of reflection. You know that there's chaos still swirling around on the outside of the eye of the storm and you know what's coming. But if we don't take moments to do counter-rhythm, what does counter-rhythm look like is one of the conversations you and I wanted to have today and that we've been having for the last couple of weeks. We're seeing a little bit of that now. You're seeing counter-rhythm out there now happening, and one example of that, which would be obvious to everybody, is the monks walk for peace, and the amount of people that have gone out of their way to meet them on the roadside and give them flowers or food or water and vice versa, and then people turning up when they find their resting spots, and people coming and massaging their legs or doing first aid on their feet and all that sort of thing.
Or people coming to bless or be blessed as well. So there's an exchange to fuel and keep the walk because there's obviously...
It's counter-rhythm.
It's counter-rhythm. And it's also people
believe
in that deeply and its core message.
And we have a couple of friends who were part of our Horror to Hope campaign who continue to put the peace symbol out in the world. They're performance artists as well as installation artists, and so they're doing that almost on a daily basis. And so what they're doing is that's another form of counter-rhythm, which I think artists and musicians are very familiar with. Can I write a song about this? And yes, it can be a song of protest and full of that kind of excessive energy, but it can also be the Gayatri mantra where you just take a moment to breathe into the inner space and imagine that on a collective level. I think it's such an important part of protesting. It is not separate from it. It's a necessary part of it.
And everyone has a different response. I know for me music is critical in finding the core space and finding my heart space. So I listen to the solfeggio frequency music it's the last thing I do at night is just to bring myself into probably more heart space, is to listen to the solfeggio music. Highly recommend it.
For me it's the Gayatri mantra because of my long time connection with India and going to the ashrams and things there. I've carried that with me and still carry it with me today. And I find that very helpful, but also just the simple act of taking deep breaths that we talk about often. We always finish each episode with don't forget to laugh, love and breathe. And the reason we always say breathe last is probably it's more important than anything else, is remembering to breathe and not do that
shallow breathing,
which we all do daily. We're not even recognising that we don't actually breathe down here, right?
Feel.
So being conscious with the breath
Oxygenate.
and like a yoga breath, if you've done yoga, guys, you've got it, you understand. If you've never done the breathing sort of thing, it's really just pushing your breath down through the diaphragm, down into your belly.
You have to do that as a singing.
To your core, to that which creates.
So
The tree of life. We'll call it the tree of life. I love the way that Portland. Shout out, by the way, to a podcast I just recently started watching called, I think it's called Danger Zone or something. Anyway,
Yeah.
lovely couple with a couple of, they've got their producer and another guy. Sorry, I don't remember all the names. I haven't watched enough, and they're in Portland, and when they were having to do the counter rhythm stuff, I loved the way that they did it. Their way of protesting was to dress up in all the inflatable frogs and unicorns and go out there on the street and sing and dance.
Yeah.
It
And that
worked.
probably sounds like it was. I remember seeing a story on people who were involved with that, bringing in costumery and bringing in.
There was one guy who was an
different
actual
restaurants.
performance artist. And
Yeah,
I think
so-
it was Tim Miller on the Bulwark interviewed him. And it was really interesting to hear why he goes out and sings these songs, makes up these songs in his frog suit. Right up close. And you know what? Even the guy that kind of walks around that has been demoted now, but he I don't know, he was doing Stalin or something. He was just doing, or Nazi Germany. Do you know the long coat? He had a long coat. Anyway, he was the leader of
A resistance.
that
group.
domestic terrorist organisation
Oh,
that's
yeah, okay.
currently operating with the government funding from the F47
Yeah.
and using the power and
I'm
privilege
following.
of taxpayers' money.
I'm following.
I'm trying to keep words to a bare minimum.
Well done. I commend you on that.
He did. He just looked straight out of that.
SS uniform.
Yeah, it was really like that.
Gonna spell it out.
And this is going back a while now when he first came on the scene, and the frog guy I'm telling you about that was like making up all
Singing
these
frogs.
songs. It was right in his face, and
Yeah.
he laughed.
Good.
He didn't attack this poor guy. Later they arrested him and pulled him into one of their place where they arrest people and take them inside. And every time every time they tried to, he told the whole story, and every time they tried to invoke violence from him or anger, he sang instead of danced. And then he said, actually, after a while, he got talking to some of those domestic terrorists and started doing the counterculture with them in conversation, but always from a place of humour and singing, and you know what? They responded in a positive way to that, and then they released him only after about 4 hours, and then we know what happens to others that have ended up in the concentration camps.
So that was what I was going to say about coherence being all parts fitting naturally and reasonably. So the singing frog band, that was a natural.
Shout out to the singing frog guy, love you, wherever you are, come and visit us in Australia. We'll take you to a few of our
So
protests.
it was a natural response, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But
it
it was
was.
coming from a coherent place for him, but it was
Yeah.
coming from a heart-centered space. He was naturally a singer, and that's his response
He knew how
to
to laugh.
a dangerous situation.
Yeah, very dangerous situation, and he still remained in character. He said he actually puts on a persona to cope with it, and I get that. In the same way that you have to take moments in the eye of the storm, and maybe if, like with me, I love talking, I go silent, and people go, are you okay? Because they're not used to me not speaking all the time. But that's my place to find my centre and go calm.
So if I start talking a lot, that's the opposite.
Opposite.
I naturally like to be.
It is a little
I
bit
like
nervous
quiet.
energy anyway. It is a little bit nervous. I do love to talk, but it also is a bit nervous energy as well. If I'm uncomfortable with a particular situation, I'll talk too much. But when I come into that place of centre and silence, it's a different response. I really genuinely feel calm after that, and then I watch everybody else around me go calm. His version of that was humour.
I think we should introduce the cake.
Ah,
It's all a bit strange because we had prepared a table
yes.
for our guest, and we don't have a guest.
No, we send blessings to her.
Yes.
She had a very good reason why she couldn't
Yes.
come.
Yes.
I'm sure she will share
Yeah,
it with you if
and
she
our
wants to in a
hearts,
couple of weeks. So our hearts go out to
Yeah.
her. And this is life, and you just have to pivot, so that's what we're doing. And talking about food, you want me to talk about the recipes?
Oh, yes.
So Portuguese tarts have made a revisit this week. Not that we're running out of recipes.
No, but I haven't made them for a while. I made these, and I have to say they are such a good staple.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Yummy. The custard tarts. Really
and I'll put the recipe up again, just in case. But they are really just egg custard inside puff pastry with grated nutmeg and sugar on top.
Sugar.
Baked in the oven.
And it's the sugar that makes it.
You might have noticed that we often have baking because I do love to bake, and I make everybody else bake with me. I don't really get a choice.
I love to bake for a special occasion, and every week's a special occasion.
That was a good comeback. That was a good counter rhythm.
What have we got here?
Okay, I've got to... Actually, it was Lois who made this cake here. We've not made this cake before, so at least you get that one that's new. But I'm going to have to bring up her notes of what's in it. Thank you to Lois. It's actually one of my support workers, and so she made it for us yesterday, late afternoon, because we had a little tea party yesterday for a colleague that was retiring, and so we didn't get to do our normal podcast cooking. And beautiful Lois, as she is, she decided, that's okay, at 4 o'clock, I'll make the cake. Before taking the dog to the park, coming home and cooking dinner. So I have extraordinary people around me, and I'm very grateful every single day. But anyway, so this cake here, as you can see, it's a bundt cake. And it's orange, ginger, walnut, and cranberries bundt cake. I believe she put a little bit of pawpaw in there as well, she told me.
Ah.
She's already on the wagon of, I might just change this recipe.
I thought she wasn't on that wagon.
No, she is now.
She's all of a sudden.
She, a bit like Stephanie over here, just going to follow the recipe, and then for the tea party.
Wait till you try your ice cream.
Oh! By the way, in this household, we do make we make our own ice cream each week.
It's got a lot going on.
I can't decide whether it's more of an orange cake or a ginger cake.
So,
This needs more ginger in there.
I love ginger.
Me too. I think Lois has done a great job, but I think I would probably put a little bit more ginger. It's literally the counter rhythm, just citrus.
So, the counter rhythm.
Everyone
has a different response, a different... I think we're all unique in the way that we express that. And how we reflect is on and process things.
This morning you brought up, when we were talking about counter rhythms, we talked about Whitlam.
Yep.
Do you want to say what you said to me about how that was counter?
We were talking about leaders in the 60s and 70s who didn't really, well, they were sacked or assassinated and it's
moved out
and actually you can see that right across the world, that people who really change things probably for the better dramatically, who have I wanted to talk about the holistic side of being human, people who speak more into what it means to be whole, emotionally, spiritually,
and brave enough.
Smart enough as well.
Well, smart enough, brave enough, and Whitlam was that, but obviously he paid the ultimate price for that.
Well,
like it was the first time in our history that the Governor General had the power to sack a Prime Minister, which it's never happened again and should never happen again, and it's never happened before that.
It was the 50th anniversary of Whitlam's sacking last year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think that it's been that long since it happened, and have we...
He spoke into things that politicians at the time did not want the general public to know about. That's really what it was. And so they found a way to get rid of him, really, didn't they?
Well, they did.
He could have done and did a lot of good things. He could have done a lot more good things had he been left to finish his term, really.
He was visionary. And the communications was that he was spending too much money.
And
he was prepared to...
he was the one that brought Jackson Pollock do polls.
Yes, that's right. In the humanities, probably right across the board, and community services, he was starting to talk to the Indigenous communities about land rights, and it seemed genuine, and spoke into education, and I really just, he was really for...
He probably
was
represented...
progressive, wasn't he? He was a progressive.
Yeah, and he probably represented a lot of the counter rhythm of that time that was going on the streets.
Yep, that's right. He was a man of his time, and there was a conservative overriding status quo, I guess, that felt threatened, and
same
so we can see that
culture
story
at the moment that's still
Mm.
trying to hold on to power.
We
But
see that story over and over. It's
oh my
just-
gosh, isn't it? But you know what? The difference is, I think, Geraldine, is that through the ages, if we look at the last 250 years, we have seen it, particularly since post-World War II, that system beginning to fall. And if we want to talk in today's language, capitalism collapsing it, and every movement, every empire eventually collapses. It's just, history shows us again. So I think what's happening now is they're going in so hard and fast and pushing uphill as much as they can, because it's almost like they know, they're hanging by their fingernails, that this is the end for that style of governing, that style of thinking, that style of culture that we've all been living for more than 100 years maybe. But there was definitely a huge change on that, like post-World War II. But I also think maybe that was the beginning of walking towards freedom from that system, which has probably been around. That's why I think that guy Jonathan, I forget his last name temporarily, that wrote about patrimonialism, and that's what a lot of that is, the mafia version of that's happening in the States. I still agree with that, and it doesn't get talked about much. Like most podcasts I listen to don't even use that word, but I actually think he's spot on. I actually think that's an indicator of that in real time, watching capitalism trying to hang on for dear life and collapsing before our eyes.
And that's why I think it's important to talk about the alternatives, because I think it's the alternatives that are the...
What is the alternatives, do you think?
As far as capitalism, because we keep... as soon as you talk about capitalism or an alternative system, we've for some reason been convinced, and I'm going to use neoliberalism has convinced us that if you're not serving capitalism, that you're serving socialism.
There's no in between.
There's no sort of in between. Then there's actually, I've mentioned...
But there is an in between, guys.
There's definitely lots of alternative systems. I've been listening to Steve Keen, who is a professor in pretty much alternative economics, but he's we'll have to do a little post. He's done all the modelling, and basically he's saying our systems are in silos. They're not talking to one another between government, finance, economics, and that they literally are not understanding how economics works. And so because they're not listening to one another, they're acting with them. So he's done a lot of modelling around what could be.
That's pretty much what
just using what is the existing system, which is interesting. So the alternative is right there in the system, is pretty much what Steve is saying. I mentioned the donut economic system, which is where, and I'd love for you to put a map up, basically. And the donut is that everything is measurable, and the idea is that on all systems, so whether it's social, environmental, it's all accounted for. And this is why I think it's been trialled in Amsterdam, but it is an English woman who's developed the system, and the whole idea is that once any part of a society falls into the centre of the donut, that is when you'll have inequity and things like, on a personal community level, homelessness and mental health. And as soon as you have any of that sort of inequity, or you're over consuming whatever, paper, whatever, materials, that has an impact on the environment. And obviously if you're over producing, over manufacturing, can start to poison the air and the environment. And anything that falls into the centre, it's gauged that there's some checks and measures to ensure that nothing falls into the centre, because that's actually when you have problems in a society.
Conceptually, is the centre of the donut meant to be? If you fall in there, then there's those of us sitting on the donut, we can help you out, fish you out. Is that the other side of that coin, or intent?
It really is about measuring those impacts so that doesn't happen.
Ah.
Obviously it's going to happen. You're not going to keep everyone, you're not going to stop air pollution completely. We obviously, once you look at that as an economic model, as a model actually for society, you can basically say, and I'm really interested at the moment in a recent research study, which is pretty comprehensive, of a connection between air pollution and autism. And I'm going to put another layer onto this because I've been following in WA, we have prescribed burns and they're overdoing it, and they're trying to justify the hot burns, and I'm talking about small planes going over forests and dropping incendiary bombs into a natural environment, and that is the model. At the same time as we have Indigenous, and we have a lot of even quite a well-known biologist, Kingsley Dixon, who headed Kings Park for quite a long time, and he's very specifically talking about how the Indigenous people, when they were talking about the cool burns, which is how this land in Australia is formed, they were talking about cool burns literally being smoke, not fire, and that it was actually smoke that transformed this landscape, and they are continuing to do it.
Because they don't know anything else. They don't know how to believe in anything else. But it's a bit like when you said to me, no, Kelly, the birds have done that. I didn't believe you. I was like,
yeah.
No, it's a clean break.
It was though.
It was a really clean break. Listen, Geraldine, a lot of people
scientist.
thought that a lot of the Epstein stuff was conspiracy theory. Turns out, when they were talking about the deep cabal and the
Deep state.
it's them. They were putting fingers out here because they knew it was them.
And that's what
the Epstein files have released and shown, that all of these people, both what we perceive as good and bad in that kind of billionaire, millionaire club sort of stuff going back for 40, 50 years, they're the ones, they're the cabal, they're the deep state, they're the ones that have committed all these acts, heinous acts.
And this is what
and
we were talking about
how is that
earlier.
even possible? All these people in power got away with it for so long, and people used to
still
point
getting
to
away with it
as
actually.
conspiracy theories. Turns out, not conspiracy theories at all.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, isn't it, that here we are in this time where we couldn't have even possibly believed or considered, and that's hence why they were for such a long time pointed as, well, that's just more conspiracy theories. Turns out the proof was there all the time. We just weren't looking hard enough. We just weren't observing. We weren't invested enough. This is why it's important to wake up and not be asleep through that process. And that's where, first, maybe to shift us, it takes frustration and anger to propel us into paying attention. But then after that, which is where I feel like we're at the moment, the tower's already falling, and it won't be long before it hits the ground. So we better get ready for that, because there will be another. We're in the middle of the eye of the storm at the moment. It'll be a nanosecond. Make no mistake, the next wave of chaos, which will be even more heinous, is coming. So we need to be prepared for that. We need to centre ourselves, stay centred, centre ourselves, and this time we need to do it differently. This time we need to do the peace side, the hope side, the counterism. I think Portland is a good example of how powerful that can be. I think the monks doing the peace walk and watching the people to respond to that.
Might be a
Pay
good time
attention.
to join a peace choir or meditate. And
Whatever. If you dance. If you sing. If you make art. If you, I don't know, talk quietly and often are not heard, speak out in a even tone. Do you know, I'm going to say it again, I've said this many times before, but particularly after his speech at the Economic Forum, World Economic Forum, I'm sure most of you have listened to Carney's speech. Talk about, that's what, to me, people like Carney and Jacinta Ardern, she's the ex-Prime Minister of New Zealand, that used compassion and empathy to run her government through very tumultuous time, COVID, and the Churchill massacre, basically. And you saw the results from that being of her way of governing very positive. And I feel like that the new style of governing, the new style of thinking that we're walking into, and we are only walking, sometimes we're still standing still with it, is what Carney said in his speech. Let go of the system of law, it no longer applies. This is falling away. It is a surmountable cultural shift that the whole world is going through. It's pretty much what he was saying. And he's saying, stop trying to hold on to the past. Stop thinking that it's different to what our eyes are telling us. Believe what, and let's move into a new way of governing. Let go of what you understood to be the way things were done. It no longer applies. And I think that's wisdom with rationale, measurement, and hope. He comes from a place, he talked about all the things that he immediately did for Canada when the trade war started, when they were being threatened to be annexed.
Yep.
He spoke of, this is what we've done. He spoke about getting results and doing, but he went about it quietly. And we hardly heard about it in the news, right? Because all we're paying attention to is all the chaos. In the meantime, quietly in the background, he's gone bang. One of the things he did was the $500 million grant to farmers so that he could help them grow through the winter months so that they could feed their own people instead of relying on farmers from America providing their produce.
They visited Australia fairly soon after the
within hours they had put a posse together to come and do a deal with Australia. And guess what? We all did a deal. And that kind of behind the scenes quiet action.
I haven't heard anything since, actually.
No, because
from our side.
But it's happening,
yeah.
But I think that's what I like about Canada and Carney. So just get on with the business of doing it. They don't need to shout out, we did this, we did that. The first time I've heard him speak about all the changes that have been made was in his speech.
Yeah.
Recently.
I just looked up because some people, I remember a friend telling me about the transcendental meditation experiment with Washington DC. I just had to look at what the date was because it was 1993, you know, more than 30 years ago, where Washington DC, they had all sorts of bodies like psychs, sociologists, all sorts of representatives agreed for this incredible experiment where TM practitioners, based on Maharishi, the concept of percentage raising the vibration or within,
I remember
around the area, within
the experiment they did with the trees.
So
it's that same concept, isn't it?
And so at any one time, because I don't know, but I'll go talk about it because maybe some people don't know about this incredible experiment. At any one time, there was 10,000 people meditating. I'm pretty sure it was 10,000. It had to be a certain percentage of the population, whether it was 1%, say. I think that was pretty much what they conceptualized, and so people flew in, drove in, walked in, whatever, into Washington DC. So TM meditations were continuous, and it was that percentage of the population, and then they kept records of crime and accidents, and within
monitored the effect.
They do keep track of all these statistics, and the statistics were there was quite a high percentage. Not just a high percentage in the duration of the experiment, but after the experiment had finished, like years later, the incidence of crime, the incidence of accidents, it all went down. So it's incredible the power of being centred. And
how profound that can be even years later. Very similar experiment, but totally different. Years and years ago, I can't even remember, must be long, but actually maybe 30 odd years ago as well, here in Australia in the pine forest, they did an experiment, these environmental scientists, people, this is when environmental science becoming a real profession, considered a real profession, and where degrees were being created for environmental scientists. It was around that time, and so they went out into the forest, the pine forest. They did this experiment of when they shook a tree, and they measured the tannin levels before and after. Tannin that we often see as poison, which, well, a tree when it's in fear, it doesn't, or it's protecting itself. If it gets a shock or if there's something, the tannin will go to the end of the leaves. What they were interested in is, does that have an effect to the trees around it, directly around it?
Of course, it would do.
So they only had to use a stick to bang one tree, and at least 5 trees deep around would also release its tannin in synchronicity with the tree that was actually being whipped. I don't know what else to say. And then...
Shaken, not stirred.
A little bit more than that, I think.
I don't know.
And then they went 50 kilometres, same thing. The one tree sent a message to trees.
50 kilometres.
50 kilometres away were releasing. They did I can't remember the exact trajectory of the experiment, but they measured the immediate vicinity, then they measured a kilometre and then 5 kilometres, but it got to the point where it was 50 kilometres away, and it was an experiment over a number of months. It wasn't just in one day. Also, at the same time, exactly the same, would release its tannin. So that
I've got a confession.
is an algorithm that goes like that.
Shout out to my friend Les Ellister, who used to have a tree farm, and the results, I think it was rare trees. It was on the East Coast. So the results...
Did you say algorithm?
You did.
Maybe nature's algorithm. Let's just change that language a little bit.
That's okay. I think I just transferred it immediately.
Okay, good. Go.
Anyway.
I know. Oh, look, electromagnetic fields. Let's just say that.
So when we were talking about what we were going to talk about, I did mention the heart, but it's interesting we're talking about the plant and kind of like it's quite incredible actually. So he had a rare tree farm, and he was getting such incredible results that the CSIRO came to monitor, investigate.
Explain to people what that organisation is.
CSIRO is our head science facility in Australia. Don't ask me what it stands for. CSIRO. That's what we all say.
Okay.
And so you can edit this.
Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation.
Say it again.
The Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation.
There you go,
Our
folks.
research
That's what it is.
our peak research organisation.
Yeah.
Inadvertently, they shut down his business, unfortunately.
How? Why?
They couldn't understand how he was getting the growth and the level of growth of his plants. By doing the monitoring and research, he lost business. They basically shut down his business. I know. That's why I'm saying you might want to edit this out, because it's a true story, but it's a very controversial story. So
I don't mind controversy.
and it's part of the reason why him coming to WA as a photographer and arts practitioner, and now lives in Tasmania. So shout out to Les.
The things you learn on the ground level that never get reported, I tell you.
This is the part that you might want to put in.
Okay.
So my good friend Les visited us, and he was staying with us, my husband and I, and we were going to a local party. So we went to the party, and it was a really lovely, one of those nights where the temperature, everything, the weather's perfect. So it was a really good night to be going out. And I remember on the way back, so we might have had a few bevies, we'd had a few drinks. And so and there was a party where people danced and there was great music, and it was a really fun night. So we were coming back, and on the way there was a pine tree that wasn't looking very well. So of course, my friend Les, Les being someone who had affinity with plants, and he basically gave the tree a hug. But he didn't just hug it, he gave it a good little shake sort of thing, and he took it away from the wall, and as he was doing that, he was explaining to me what he was doing. So he didn't just do that, he was communicating to me as well. And I have to say, I started to hug that pine tree regularly when I walked past.
That's the best counter rhythm of the day, Geraldine.
The tree.
So, the moral of the story, if you think you're not a tree hugger, go out and hug a tree.
I know.
It might be a good counter rhythm.
And it was that happy moment where I saw something beautiful and I thought, oh, how beautiful. And he was right, the tree was sick.
Aww.
That tree got better and... Sorry.
Because you hugged it every day. No, Geraldine, I have to just give context here. Geraldine is actually a very good gardener. I think I've told you in the past. I can't grow a thing. My sister has the green gene. Both sisters. My mother did. My dad and I, we did not get that gene. So anyone who can grow a garden and look after a garden, and it just blows my mind. And Geraldine's one of them. So I'm always like, it makes perfect sense to me that you hug the tree.
Actually, I should count. Yeah. Let you know, it was one of those fir trees, and they do actually get a disease, and they're very prone to disease, and all the fir trees in my area have slowly but surely been dying, and I was aware of that because in the view from my back veranda, I could see all of these trees dying one by one. This was
because one affects the other one.
Yeah,
it passes the disease on.
So this tree is a little bit further down the road, but it was looking like it was getting that disease, and it was becoming from a sort of a nice sort of green. It's so funny that I'm telling you this.
No, I think it's great. I'm going to ask you a question.
I must say that I know the value of hugging trees, but I don't hug trees very often. But it
just
was
this one little lonely tree that needed, and you brought it back to life.
I feel like
that's the story
did.
on its own.
And actually, I haven't told the owner of the house that I've been doing that.
You're going to tell them.
I do know them. I don't know how they're going to respond.
Are you going to tell them?
I don't need to.
You don't need to.
No, they might watch this podcast one day.
Geraldine, did you bring our tree back to life? Thank you for hugging it every day for us.
Seriously, I did go past that tree a lot. I did. It wasn't a
Did
full...
you hug the tree on your walks?
Sorry, Steph.
I did use, not with Geraldine, but I have hugged trees before.
Have you?
Yeah,
You've even hugged
I'm a
trees.
tree hugger as well.
I have a
Well,
confession myself. I never hugged a tree.
well, trees,
Ever.
when you hug... This is
I hug the ocean.
This
That's
was
my
not-
I
favourite
hug the
piece.
ocean and I hug trees.
I love the ocean.
Just to let you know, a fir tree is not easy to hug. It's
No, it's prickly. That much I know.
super prickly, but it's not like hugging a trunk. But I have hugged the trunks of trees, and they give back more than you give them.
Okay.
So when Stephanie's leaving the building, I can see. But I do think that there was some
I'm
value
outta
to the
here.
tree, and so I encourage people to hug trees.
That sounds like a good note to end on to me. Go and hug a tree, everyone.
Don't hug a tree. 'Cause
Okay,
actually-
here's a challenge. I have absolutely never hugged a tree in my life.
Yeah,
Alright,
I do
here's a
that.
challenge.
I'm going to hug
When
a tree
you
this
take
week.
Gizzy out for a walk,
I'm going to hug a tree.
you go hug a tree and I want a video of it and I want to see at the end of this post.
I'm hugging a tree today, guys. Now, if he said to me, jump in the ocean and swim with a seal, which I've done many times, or a dolphin, because we have them all in our coastline here, and if I wasn't on the back of a horse, I was on the back of a boat growing up, and that's my version of heaven, jumping into the ocean and hugging a seal.
It's so funny.
Not exactly hugging a seal, but swimming with the seal into the shore, and it gets up on the rock and sunbakes. So, here's my challenge for this week as a new style of algorithm. I'm going to go with Geraldine to the doggy park shortly after we finish recording here, and I'm going to hug a tree and she's going to record it so that you all know that I did it. And I'm going to see whether I can feel what she's talking about. Experiment number 1.
Yes.
101.
It is amazing, and it's the same as grounding or anything, but I do believe that trees give more than we give them.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
They're far more powerful than we are. You talk when scientists say, listen, this is how I decided to be cremated instead of buried. Like cremation used to freak me out a bit because I thought it's fire. And I'm not a fan of fire. I feel like more put me out on the ocean with a rogue wave and I'm far more comfortable. And he kept telling me, this guy, he was a big environmentalist. And he said, Kelli, if I burn you down and I burn this tree down and I take it into the lab, it's exactly the same.
There you go.
And I said, so I'm the tree and the tree is me.
Yeah, organic.
See you, bitches.
Oh, Gizmo says, where's my hug?
I did him first. It's on camera. By the way, Ali's liked my Patreon post.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's nice.
We're really looking forward
We
to
send
it.
you love, Ali.
Yeah, lots of love to you, Ali. I'm so looking forward to meeting you in 2 weeks' time.
Yes.
Anyway, Geraldine.
So coherence.
All right, I'm going and I'm taking
Coherence,
Counter-rhythm.
hug trees, counter rhythm.
and I'm taking
Listen
my
to
cup
Gayatri
with me.
mantra
Oh, yes.
or other mantras.
And Stephanie has
Sing
got a
songs
new
in the face of
t-shirt.
adversity. Dance. All right, let's
So,
find out.
raising your energy levels, however, whatever, finding coherence, and so that you can be responsive to environment.
And this
have we solved
counter ribbon.
all-
This is another physical counter ribbon you can do. When someone's talking at you, I get that all the time. I don't know. I seem to push people's buttons. Even when I say
Well,
nothing or do nothing, I seem to
Kelly,
push people's buttons.
humans can just talk at each other rather than with each other. And
I think that happens
that
a
does
lot.
happen a lot, yeah.
And so my
That we ever
my
do that,
version
Kelly.
of counter rhythm of that, I learnt a long time ago, especially in meetings with men in the 80s, just saying.
Mhm.
I'm probably the only female at the table. And I started doing this. And they're talking at you. And as they're talking to you and you're going like that, all of a sudden you see them doing this. Even if it's just their shoulders moving a little bit.
Yep.
And then they start calming down and stop talking at you so much. And then there's that space, that little space where you might get the opportunity to talk with them. And they might get the opportunity to talk with you. And in that space, there is hope. And that's why counter rhythms are important. That's why that is such a beautiful thing to see. I keep just thinking of the inflated frog man. I just love him. I just think he was great. And he started a whole movement because then all the Portland people went out and brought these unicorns and frog inflatable
They were
suits.
giving them out. They didn't even.
And they talk about it. It served several purposes because it also protected them from, gave them a bit of a barrier and protected them from being infected by all the toxic gases that they were throwing at people, at protesters. I just think it was just smart all the way around. And it was funny. Humour.
Yeah.
He's ready to go.
Yeah.
All right, let's sign off because I'm also...
Time to go.
I need to go.
Okay.
Geraldine.
Shall we just
Which
sign
I
off?
need help with.
Say bye. Stay
So-
fluid, stay focused, stay free. Most
Next
of
week
all.
we're interviewing again, or I guess next week, I shouldn't say interviewing because it's not really an interview, it's conversation. Next week we've got Carl back again. Now, Carl was the one that is an artist, but he also was a policy writer. And I feel like he didn't get too many views on his video because we get flagged in YouTube as soon as we talk politics. And that was a very long...
We can come back.
No, it's okay. Next week he's coming back and he's just going to talk art. Nothing but art. We promise not to talk politics next week. We might be back to it the week after that. In the meantime, don't forget to laugh, love, and just
Breathe.
breathe.
Counter rhythm. Breathe.
I'm going to showcase the artists that we've been playing in the background all
Okay.
this time.
Beautiful.
Deva Pramel, or Diva Pramel, depending on where you come from and how you pronounce it. And I think her and her husband are German. Anyway, they were the first probably Westerners that took on the mantle of getting things like the Gayatri Mantra or Kirtan or Bhajans, depending on who you're talking to, what they're called, out into mainstream Western culture because it's a very Eastern thing. And so I'll showcase her at the beginning and also at the end. She has a lovely story. So she can be our Artist of the Week, Artist Watch.
Beautiful. Brilliant.
All right.
So I'm going to say stay fluid, stay focused, stay free, and as Kelly has said, love, 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 laugh, 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 and breathe.
Just
And
breathe.
Gizmo is on the move, and I think Kelly is on the move. And
I'm on the move.
And just keep moving.
Om Namah Shivaya.